Hi, I'm Emily Deschanel.
And I'm Carla Gallo.
And this is Boneheads. Today is a very special episode of Boneheads.
Very special.
Because we have a real treat. Yeah. A real treat for our listeners.
A national treasure, if
a
you
national
will.
treasure. I mean, we have Michaela Conlin here. I feel like I'm a news reporter right now when I'm talking like this. This is not how we're used to doing it. We have Michaela Conlin here, who is an incredible actress, one of my very best friends, and everyone knows her as Angela Montenegro on Bones. And she's cringing, worried that we're introducing her. This is like a beyond exciting that we have her in here, and we're actually recording some video too, which
for
is
the first time.
Been the most complicated
she's also a guinea
thing.
pig for that, which is pretty great for her. No, you can now.
You can say something now.
We can now.
And here's Michaela.
Hello, Michaela.
For some reason, I was trying not to make eye contact with you that whole time.
I know. I saw that.
But we have it on
Look
film,
away.
which is
Look
nice.
away. Okay, great.
No, we will not use it.
Look away. Look away. Look away.
Look away.
Is this the right
Thank
height?
you for coming and doing this.
It's really nice to see you. You're two of my all-time favorite people, so this is not a hard decision. So
You're two of my all-time favorite people.
Oh,
You know, the
Thank
Gemini that you are.
I know it's true. It's true.
Oh, I mean, it's just I feel like you're far away.
It's like
farther away than I like you to be.
I
but
know.
we have to
We
do
were
this.
just saying that we've looked into each other's faces for so long that you really can kind of like pick up any kind of. We can pick up anything in each other, just like any kind of tension or like anything.
That
you
is
can kind of,
true.
you can pick it up.
Oh yeah.
I think that is true. Yeah.
And we're also actors. I feel like actors,
Yes.
you just naturally will pick up on all kinds of things with
It's true.
people.
But I also feel like we all have each other's back. I will say
Yes,
during the
yes,
setup
yes.
of
This was
I was
some
like,
setup.
you got
Set this
me,
up.
and I know that you
This
got
was
me.
some set, but we did.
There was some setup, and we got through it. And I think that that's going to be
We're
the
not
hardest
used
part
to
of the
having
podcast.
any kind of video.
Yeah.
And this is just
that was the
I
hard
don't.
part.
I understand why we don't do this normally. 'cause
Are we
it's a
supposed to
pain
look in the
butt.
camera? No.
No.
No,
Okay, great,
no.
great.
Pretend it's
Just
not
forget
there.
us.
Forget it's
Let
there.
it melt away.
Yeah, Michaela,
Let it melt
you know
away.
how it is. Do you remember?
That's right.
Just pretend it's not there. You're used to this. This is how we do things.
I love the mic.
I know
It's
it's
very
fine.
lounge singer. It's very like.
fine.
I know. Should
When
we
it's just
sing
us.
something? Should we sing?
Do you have a karaoke machine here? Well, first of all, can you believe that it's been 20 years?
No, I mean
We started
no.
Bones 20 freaking
No.
years ago.
No.
I mean, we auditioned for it at least 20 years ago right now, and then
Yeah.
probably filmed it
Yeah.
probably 20 years from when we're going to air this thing.
Yeah. I do have like a bin in my house of bone stuff, and I did find like I must have gone through and decided what to save, but I saved like the studio test, which I think was like this
What?
week or next week, like the information of where it was. I know
than
it's so
I am.
nerdy,
I'm
but
the worst.
it was February 2005. So
What?
it's just I know.
So it was literally
was like
practically
now.
to the
Now.
day. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like 20 years ago.
Oh,
Remind me.
Yeah, and
wild.
Michaela was
It's insane.
cast before I was cast.
I know. I guess so. Yes.
No, you were
yes,
cast.
I was.
I'm
yes.
almost positive you were cast before.
Yeah,
I
I know.
was cast.
Yes, right. Yes,
I feel like I
was.
didn't even audition till March or something like that. But
Yeah,
I
it
don't.
was a
I
minute.
didn't keep anything. I have 0 scripts from Bones. Although I forgot to bring them out, but I do have pages that I had as scrap paper from an episode from
She still
2011.
has it as scrap paper. Oh my God, that
my-
just
my
reminded
notes are
me.
just-
One of my favorite things that I never, ever let her live down was right from the start. I was like, oh, she really puts, what are they called? Like tabs,
No.
colored tabs.
I love a tab.
I mean, I've never
Loves
seen
a
anyone,
paper calendar, and
Never
she loves a tab.
never seen anyone.
I love
dog wants to
staples.
come
I
in.
love. the dog
I've never
does
seen
wanna-
anyone color code a script
It's
like
true.
Michaela
Thank you.
Conlin.
Thank you so
and the
much.
thing, I think
It
the
was
most impressive part was that,
Thank you.
9 years later, I was like, still doing it, huh? Still doing it. I was like, she's not reached that point where she's like, I can do this without the colored tabs.
You know what it is? I feel like once I do it, oh my God, I can't believe I'm talking about this. But I feel like once I do it, then I can let it go. Like I do it and then it gets in my brain. It's like writing it.
Yeah. I
Wait,
hear
but
you.
the colored tabs were not to say, hey, we
the
shot
color
that
tabs
scene already.
Well, that was just enjoyable for me to pick them off and then put them on the bottom.
Oh, so once you filmed it,
Once
you
we
take...
filmed it.
Ooh, I didn't even realize that.
Real sense of
Wow.
accomplishment. Really checking it
We're
off
really
the
getting
list.
right into my like my
Neuroses?
my staples, my neuroses. Yes. Yeah, I definitely did that, and a lot of pencil, erasing. And
I just want to know because I know you had done other like shows and pilots and things
Yeah.
like that.
She's an accomplished actress
very accomplished.
already at this time. You've
wanna-
done other shows and pilots
Yeah.
and shows that went.
I had, and didn't go.
Just
Most-
right, but you did
most of
shows
them
that
didn't
went.
go.
I never had been on
Yeah.
a show that went when I did Bones, so like you were more
okay.
experienced in that
Yeah,
way.
yeah. They had gone and then gotten.
Yeah. So how was like what was your perspective on Brennan? Were you like, I like this one, I want this one?
Yeah.
Were you like, I'm just doing 20 pilots, I'm testing all the time? Like, where were you at
Yeah.
when the testing for this is happening?
Yeah. I had done a show in the year before, in 2004, called The DA, and I was thinking of this because I knew this was probably going to come up. And I can't remember how the head of casting at 20th saw the show, or I had a general, or he saw the show and then I had a general, or maybe I just had a general, I don't remember. But his name was Tony Martinelli, and we were talking about The DA, and he was like, "That it was a great cast, and there's this. Here's what pilots we have, and there's this show called Brennan." And it was when we got like paper. He like handed me the script in the office. I remember it said Brennan. Like I remember.
Is this something that
seeing
actually
it.
comes from a general meeting? I don't think I've ever heard of
know.
anything
I
coming
mean,
from a general meeting.
I mean, how many times does that happen though? And then I think it was just luck that I happened to get that job. I don't think. I mean, how many times do you have something where they
But he
mention
might
it
have
and they
been
don't?
a champion for you while that was right?
Well, I do remember meeting Barry and Hart and
Yeah.
Greg. So I do remember that. But anyway, that happened. I remember that. And I remember reading it and thinking, oh, she's really confident. And like, am I confident enough to do this? Because at that point I had kind of played like put upon, kind of like overwhelmed, like new medical interns, like
Right.
very kind of fresh face. I hadn't played that kind of like thing. And I remember thinking like that would be so fun to do. And she's in so many different parts of it. She's in the lab, she's with Brennan, she's like, which I really liked.
And she's an artist, but she's into like the forensic stuff and the technical stuff. And she's like a computer whiz, but she's also an artist, which is different in that whole world.
It was funny. Like the script was, I never really watched procedural shows, but it was, and I didn't think of it like that when I read it. I was like, oh, these are like funny people.
It's character driven.
Yeah. But that being a different time, it was so busy. It was like such a different time where they were making like 50 pilots a year. And I was supposed to test for another show that I think was also a Fox show called Briar and Graves. I could be wrong that it was Fox, but I think it was. And I remember that I had to not do that test in order to test. Like they didn't preempt my test for Brennan. Like they didn't say, hey, we want you, I don't remember the story, but I remember having a conversation with my agent, and she was like, at the time, she was like, you can't, if you don't test for Briar and Graves and you don't get it, you could end up with neither of these. Like you could, they really like you for this other show. And I was like, yeah, but the character is so much better in Brennan. It's just she's so much stronger. She's so much more, like there's so many more parts to her. It was a very one note character, whatever that character was on the other show, at least as written in the pilot. So I had to pass on that show. And I remember at that point, I don't think I really knew what that meant at that point. You're kind of like, screw it.
There'll be another one.
There's like, I get 20 auditions a day.
Yeah,
Who cares?
exactly. Yeah. But thankfully it worked out,
I mean, thank
that
God.
Did you test against, do you remember, were there like a lot of other women?
Yes. I remember meeting Barry and Hart and Greg in Barry's office on a Friday. And the appointment was at like 3:30, and I didn't go in there until like I waited. There were so many people. It was a producer session, but there was a lot of girls. And I just I remember it was like at the Fox, it was at his office. And I just remember going in, and they were all sitting together on this couch. And Hart was in the middle. And then I did it once, and Barry jumped up. from his seat and was like kind of directing, and I was like, I wasn't sure who was who at that point. Yeah, I was like, who
Was
is
Greg
who?
there?
Greg was there.
Greg was really quiet in my audition.
Yeah,
as
but
well, or-
watching.
yeah,
but like
but
obviously.
watching, yeah.
And Hart was just smiling. He was just like, smiling. And I remember knowing it went well, but again, there were so many people, and they were all different kinds of girls. Like every, so many different kinds. So it was, and then we found out like that 2 hours later or something, they were like, the test is going to be like next week or something. Like it was very
And that they
fast.
wanted to test you.
So you just went in once, and then they wanted to test you studio.
Yeah. It was pretty quick. It was
And do you
definitely-
remember who, like,
I know.
were you testing against other people, I
know.
assume? I know.
Right?
The
Yeah.
business has changed so much for people who are not in the business listening
now
or
it's
watching this. It's like,
unbelievable. They put you through this, like, it's so insane.
and you just audition. If you're auditioning like, with they can
many times.
have 1,000 people audition because you just put it yourself on tape.
Correct.
Casting directors don't need to be there when you're doing it or give any direction of where it is.
I mean,
and then
being
they just
in person
didn't
is
decide.
really, I mean, the youngins don't remember that, but being in person was really just the best. Also, because for us, I think you got to see who you were going to be working. You really got a vibe from people. You really were like, are these people that not that, you would choose not to work with them. Obviously, we all wanted to work, but I mean, it was such a different time of like, I remember leaving certain rooms and being like, I would never want to work with, I would never want just being very cold. And that was definitely not how they all were. They were very chatty and like, it was just very warm.
We've talked about that. I mean, that it's a good, like when you look at the actors, the cast, even the squinterns, the guest cast, it's like, it's almost like shockingly good. Like everyone is there, or like good people. Like, and then we were talking about that, kind of analyzing it, and I was like, well, it's trickle down. I think, like, I think if the upper management are like good, kind, loving, thoughtful, considerate people, they're hiring people that they get a vibe off of.
Totally. And rewatching the show, it is funny. There's so many pairings that are that work. Like everybody really works.
It's
really
weird,
kind
right?
of crazy. And even in watching season 1, it's like things with Eric and TJ, things with Eric and Emily, things with TJ and I, things with like everything
You
just
two.
worked. Yes.
Like that's a huge
I know.
one. And you guys didn't you never chemistry read together, no?
No.
So how crazy is that, right?
But the funny thing was, I did meet, she knows the story, but I did see her at an audition like a month before for a movie.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were sitting across from each other, and there was a lot of people in the room, and she smiled at me. And it was like, I remember it. It just was like a weird, very genuine smile. Those rooms were always so weird.
I'm
They're
I'm a big believer in like, you're not competing against these people.
yeah.
The person who should get the job, don't stare people down or whatever. Like, I don't know.
Right, you're not going to get the job. You're not more likely to get it because you were mean to some, or you you shook
people-
her.
People will give you the stink eye,
Yeah.
and I just find that so weird.
But I looked your name. Like I looked at there used to be sign-in sheets where you could see, and I remember looking up your name, and I was like, oh, and then it was so weird because like a month later, or 2 months later, it wasn't long before, maybe 2 months later. It was not a long time.
I think I said in some interview, like, something like when Michaela was cast, I could see being best friends with her.
Yeah.
And then the internet says that we're best friends. I'm like, we have a lot of best friends. She's one of my best friends. I don't have a best friend.
It did start saying. It did say that. It does say that.
I don't want Michaela's other good friends.
Right. We have many
best friends.
Yes.
But
it did work.
But it did work
It
out
did
so
work.
well that we did become such close friends. And like, thank goodness. I mean, how lucky are we that we got to play best friends for so long? And
it really is. We have a mutual friend who just met her father at an event, and he sent me such a nice text. He was like, Emily is so great. I see, not to compliment myself, but she was like, he said, I see why you're such close friends. Like, I see why you're, it really is like, I mean, it's such an insane amount of work when I think about it now. And like the on-camera stuff, but the off-camera stuff, I mean, all of it, that's what a long-running show becomes, It's like, it is that. I know, I'm totally crying. I'm totally crying. But I mean, how much stuff is there that's not what you see? It's people and being with everybody for so many hours a day and so many years. I mean, anyone's 12 years of life is such a long amount of time.
Yeah.
But then you put everybody in this kind of pressure cooker where you're like, you know, I feel I can't imagine doing that. I never would have lasted that long. I would have left. I mean, if it wasn't, there's no way. I mean, how would you even, not to mention it makes it so much easier when you're doing those scenes. To really like somebody.
So,
you
I mean,
know?
we were talking the other day on the phone, just saying we had knowing that we were going to do this. So we were kind of reminiscing for a moment, and we are like, we had so much fun.
It was, I mean, laughing on that platform
Yeah.
was like, I can't even, if I miss one thing, it's that platform. And like,
Yeah.
in the early days, we had a lot of people on that platform before they realized that took a really long time to shoot. But you guys would come, and the squint turns were another whole like joyous like burst of energy that came in, because that I feel like we all needed it too. Like we needed them because we were it was so nice to have like they'd work for a couple of weeks, and it was like this infusion of like the outside world, and you know it's so
And
insular.
like their different personalities.
Their different personalities, yes.
They're all just great, and we all got along so great and so well together, but each one was unique and different, and so it was.
And then we all got to do different stuff with them too.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like everybody had their own pairing or their own
right.
Cam and Aristu. Like everyone had their own. You and John Francis. Like it was so cool that I really did appreciate that. But yeah, the platform I think is like, if I really think about it, that's probably. I just remember laughing, so like watching people's shoulders move, laughing, and just dropping things on the bodies, and like, I mean, just
trying to get through the scenes without laughing, and trying to get through with all the technicals of getting your gloves on, taking them off. I mean, going to the computer, touching the body, doing specific things with the body. Or
remember whenever they do inserts like after us? Do you remember like? There'd be somebody else that did like the Angela insert.
Yeah. Like the hands. Tomorrow would say hairy knuckles. Like they bring in the hairy knuckles.
Totally, yes.
I mean,
anyway.
to be fair, I never actually saw hairy knuckles from
right.
But
there were no hairy knuckles.
It was definitely not our hands for the inserts.
And then we had all these directors that were all different. I mean, yeah, it was just we laughed a lot on that show.
Point. I remember it, but when you talk about it, I'm like, that's so true. Like it really was such a fun. Obviously, the long hours, whatever, could sometimes like wear you down. But you're right. The laughter on that set, for it not being like a comedy, like comedies, that's sort of the vibe you're hoping for on a set, because you're, but on that show, over these disgusting bodies and science, and then just laugh. I mean, I think we've talked about this because TJ and Tamara, the memories of that, of like how much it held up shooting, but like that was the vibe there.
I think they ended up like scheduling them on Friday. Didn't they have them on Friday nights?
Probably. I thought that people laugh more. Not just I want you to answer that, or to respond. But I feel like people laugh more in dramas than comedies, because the comedies sometimes I visited not. I guess my husband works on like comedies where people are laughing, but when I visited friends on other shows, it felt like so tense, because like getting the jokes and like hitting the jokes felt like stressful. And then
not for me, because like even when I just compare comedies. The comedies of the last half of my career versus like Carnival, we were a family. We loved each other so much. We had a great time, but it wasn't like, we weren't like giggling. They weren't like, okay, guys.
Yeah.
Because it was heavy. There was a heaviness to it.
Yeah.
Whereas on that, there was such enjoyment of like each other. Like I do feel like that part of, I know from my end was coming in and whatever relationship I had with each of you. Yeah. And like you and I, like for me, we would pull away. We'd be like, okay. Okay, go sit down. They'd be like, okay, we're turning the camera around. You guys have a half hour, and we'd be like, should we go into your office? And then like get in there, and it was always like who we were dating. Like, oh
my God,
just deep dive into what had happened in the span since I had last been there.
Well, yes, because another thing is that I also was there the night that Carla met her husband. That's another like.
I didn't even think about Michaela. I did not even in getting ready for. We've talked about it, but I didn't think we had to. We're talk
which
about
was an amazing kind of crazy.
Remember that.
I mean,
so funny.
And just like I remember Emily dating. I remember Emily meeting her husband. I remember you both meeting your husbands. Honestly,
that's cool.
I wasn't there when you met your husband, but I remember.
Yeah.
It actually leads me to the question of like, how I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to go back and forth, but like, how is life post the show? Reflecting back on having a job for that, span of time, do you like miss it, or are because I think when my perspective was sort of when it ended, because you guys had been doing it for so long and such long hours, that there was some relief to like get your own life back. And I'm curious, because I've never been a serious regular on something that ran like that. Just what life afterwards, and auditioning and trying to get work, and can you like take me through that?
I remember it being very hard when the show ended, like mentally having a really hard, that January, like there were pilots. I remember reading pilots and just being like, how am I gonna, being nervous to sign up for something.
Can't believe you read something right after.
I was reading stuff that,
Wow. I did not want to work.
Yeah. But then I also met my husband before I think a year before we wrapped. So I remember being glad he was in New York, and I remember being glad that I had time to see him, because it was always very hard to make that long distance obviously work. And then it sort of started that phase of my life, like meeting him moving here, talking about getting married, talking about having kids. So that kind of filled that period. But I mean, I love working. Like, I love going to work. It's such a great like joy. And I do miss the regularity of work. I mean, working in town now is such a like, oh my gosh,
So
we were
rare.
so lucky. I can't even believe that we got to do that for that long in town.
It used to
it's
be much more
unbelievable.
common.
I know. Hopefully it
now
will be at another point. But now it's like, can you do you leave the kids? Are you going to take this job? Is it going to last? Is it worth playing
Can you
my
move
kids?
to
Can we-
Romania for
can you move
7
to
years?
South Korea or wherever
Right.
they're, like, I don't know. I think it's like we're also older. So there's like a different, you're reading and, for different stuff. And I don't know. I definitely miss working on something every day. For sure. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard when you're jumping from things, or like not working or not working for long periods and freaking out about it. And then as soon as you get the job, you're like, oh my God, am I going to have time to do anything? Am I going to, it's just that kind I feel like Emily and I have talked about this, but we were sort of removed from that for such a long time, because we had this steady, and they would pick up the show 2 years at a time. I mean, we were so fortunate. Like, I can't even, to know that as an actor, to have that kind of, promise of work.
It
is
never
really,
happens.
And
I mean,
you
there's
guys
a
were
handful
like,
of shows that lasted this long.
Yeah.
No, we were all like, I was always juggling. I mean, I was living such a different, because I would come in and be like, oh, well, I just shot this thing, or I'm up for that thing, or whatever. And so I was constantly juggling. So, but yeah, I do think about that for you guys to then, like, I remember thinking it for you, like, oh, this show ends and now she has to go back, I mean, for both of you, obviously, but like, just to go back into that pool of like the auditions and the waiting room and the like, it was so bizarre to me that that's two very different lifestyles as an actor.
Yes, for sure. And the regularity, we did so many episodes a season. I mean, we did 20 to 22 episodes. 22.
One season we did 24.
Okay, I'm peppering in some fan questions.
Okay.
Okay, just every once in a while. Okay, let's see. This is something else that we have talked about, and I would make fun of when I would come to work. So Ellie Mahaffey asks, whose idea was it for the lapels
I know what you're gonna say.
of
I know
Angela's
what you're
lab
gonna
coat
say.
to be decorated? She said, I love the choice, which is not how I felt about it. I didn't.
I actually know whose idea it was. It was David Boreanaz's idea.
What?
Yes. He, I believe, told Bobby Reed about it. I think I'm getting it. Yeah, I know, I'm sure. Don't doubt yourself, Michaela. It's true. He mentioned it. And then they started, wasn't there a season where it was like puffy painted or something?
Yes. I think it might have been the same season.
Okay.
I feel like they did different things.
There was so much
They
like
rotated different things because she's like
accoutrement.
artistic and she has different
The
coats.
idea- Don't
forget
and she
it, don't
does
forget it.
all
She's an artist,
different.
don't forget it.
She's an artist.
Creative,
She's an artist, don't
artistic
forget it.
Wear a lab
things.
coat,
But
but
I have
She
to decorate
can, she's going to embellish
she
that
has
lab
to
coat.
embellish it.
you need
You
to be
think
you
that
need to
woman
know.
is going to wear a regular lab coat? Excuse me. Excuse
I think
me.
there was an Asian like.
Oh,
kind of
there
like a
sure was.
ribbon, an Asian ribbon. Like,
There was some kind
Let's
of
not forget that Michaela is
Asian.
a part
let's not
Asian.
forget. If you forget, you could just go into Angela's office and you'd
We
remember.
will not
You would
forget.
You would remember. Yeah, there was like. It wasn't bedazzles, but it was like metallic. I don't know. You know, I do wonder why I didn't quite like now if I watch the show, the belts. We've
talked a lot about the
so
belts.
big.
aggressive
The
belt
belts,
choices.
I mean, Brennan also wore some amazing belts, but Angela, I think, takes the cake for the
Yeah,
belts.
what?
she's
Like,
an artist.
They were-
I mean, guys.
I mean, like,
I'm
that
hoping they
wa-
come back in fashion so I
They
can just
won't.
be.
probably
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
the one thing that won't come back in fashion.
They were enormous. It was like they're like they were big. They were big. And the jewelry. And
Yeah.
a lot of
We
jewelry.
They all
Same,
went all out
yeah.
for both of our characters, but in
Lot of-
different ways.
Yeah. You had more earthy, sort of like stone.
Well, she had like artifacts.
I had like
she
yeah, I
was
was
wearing like
artifacts.
artifacts.
And I could wear and have in my office like things from all cultures of the world.
Right,
Where you could have
right.
Asian
Just
culture
Asian.
things.
I had right.
and we'd always
Yours could
just
be-
like tomorrow
mine
could
were
have
ve-
African
Right,
things.
right.
And I could have all things from all over the
It's
world.
true.
Being an anthropologist,
It's true.
It's
But the fact that David made a
I
choice
know.
about your like he was like, you know what?
Well,
you know
then I
what,
was like,
Angela?
okay.
But why did he?
the thing
I
that
guess
we
they were
probably
like-
wouldn't. We'd probably push back on now.
right.
You know, when someone else makes a choice.
I mean, listen, I will say we were
character.
in blue lab coats a lot.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what
yeah.
I mean?
Oh, I remember
and I
too,
think
like-
I was probably like, let's spruce it up.
No, that's true.
But then you don't realize kind of what you're committing to, I think. Did it taper out in the later
Yes.
seasons? Okay.
Yes.
It might have just
Okay.
been one.
It
That was me
tapered
coming to
out,
my
yeah.
senses.
It might have
Because I
just been
remember
one
I was like,
season.
what is happening? Like anytime I saw like Asian pattern, I was like, Michaela, like this is not
It was like a
okay.
point. It was like,
Yeah.
I cannot.
But it did stop. No, it definitely stopped.
I'm glad you brought it up, though. I'm glad we can
I'm
address
glad
it head on.
Ellie Mahaffey
I know.
brought it up. Bunkit CSJ asked, as someone studying forensic sketching, how interesting was it all to see it all happen? To like be, I guess, to like do the sketching. I guess someone obviously did the sketches for you,
Yes,
obviously, and then how
Donna Klein did most.
just
of
she
my-
did the
most of our
yeah,
sketches.
Donna Klein, who
Yep.
was our forensic
Okay.
consultant, who was a forensic artist herself, did the sketches.
And in the early days, it was a pad and a pencil. In the first season or
Oh,
two, it was a
yeah.
flip pad because I remember my
Okay.
hands used to get like the pencil on them from like pretending.
Okay.
She'd hand it to me, and then I'd have to like sketch over
Would
it.
you
so I always
sketch?
have-
Were you like, what were you doing? You were-
she
oh,
would
yeah?
sketch.
I was
She
sharing
sketched
that-
wait, what was it like a
Wait, I can't.
like
even
an
think of-
ostrich or
Do
something?
you know I draw that for my kids right now, and they love him. His name is Ebenezer. He's a little cartoon ostrich, and I found in this bin one of the sketch pads, and he was in there.
Wait,
Yeah.
is that
Like-
something
No, I
you would
remember you would
sketch?
do that
It was like it's
often.
like the only thing me, Michaela, can draw is like
It's her thing.
I
It's
wrote,
a
like,
So
a-
the
signature
camera was
sketch.
this way, and we couldn't see the pad.
that's what
That the ostrich.
But
would
then
be,
she would show. Then she'd show me
I
after.
love it.
Then she'd show us after. She'd be like,
Yeah, it was
like,
like,
you what
She's
it
like,
is.
I know
It
who
would
the
be
victim is.
Ebenezer.
The victim. This is the victim's face. This is who the victim is.
now that turned, obviously then it was replaced with an iPad or I had a
Okay.
tablet. Then it morphed, and then the Angelator became
then
the
Angelatron.
Angelatron.
Okay.
Budget cuts.
Budget cuts, right? Well, the
It was
screen
also
was
like we
prettier.
were crossing our eyes,
Yeah.
looking at when we
It
did
was,
the Angelator.
yeah.
That was hard to film.
And they would always, it was. They would always do a Hollywood like around us. Do you remember? And we'd have to.
I don't feel like that was done so much in the series, but
Yeah, no, it
definitely
wasn't as much in the series, but-
Memorable at 2 a.m. when we were with Greg.
Yeah.
And then my favorite is
Turn.
Wait, what? I remember us saying that on set, and I really don't. Was that Tony Warmby?
It was Tony Warmby did not want me. Wait a minute. Do you remember like be a group scene and you'd be like, maybe they're gonna catch me in this scene, like maybe they're gonna. But it clearly was like on Booth and Brennan, but I was like in the shot, so, I was
he
like.
was slowly getting you out of
He
the.
was slowly. He's like, Michaela, turn.
No.
I was just turned. I was just turned away. I can't. We would say it for years after after it happened. If you talk to TJ or Tamara, any of us, and you say that, they would remember the back of my head. it.
We'd rather,
And then
we'd prefer not to see your
Carla
face.
and I had to like sell a Toyota. Remember
Yeah,
when we had
I
to
talked
sell a
about
Toyota?
that.
Yes.
I think with TJ too. And I didn't realize what was happening until we were kind of in it. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
They're like, put the body fits in the back.
Yeah,
There's
they're
lots
like,
of extra room or something.
and they're like, oh, the door. Yeah, I think TJ's like, oh, I'll open the door from here. It's a remote, you know,
Right,
whatever. And I
right,
was like,
right.
oh my God, we're selling a Toyota.
Yeah, that was in like what, season 6 or so. I don't remember what
So
season it was.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to do another fan question. I have a lot of
Okay.
questions myself, but we don't want to forget the fan questions.
No.
So I'm
Great.
just going to make sure we do that. Finding peace _ Ashley.
Oh, I thought that was the question. I was like, wow, I was like,
Ooh, taking a turn.
How do you find peace? Okay.
Taking a turn.
Finding peace _ Ashley says, what was your favorite storyline for Angela?
Oh, wow. I mean, like single episode or general storyline?
I think it
wonder?
could be either one.
Okay. I mean, I was thinking in preparing for this about like all of the things that Angela, like Cyndi Lauper as her psychic and Stephen Fry.
Yes. Avalon Harmonium.
Avalon Harmonia. And of course, Billy Gibbons, all of those kind of storylines. Of course, Angela and Hodgins. I loved their whole story. I mean, that went
And
on
what a
for
roller
so
coaster
long.
that
Oh
one
my
was.
God, that was many seasons. So that was great. But I liked how like they had her do. It was. I feel like in the writers' room, it was like she was the miscellaneous. Like she was. She just had so many different. She was married in Fiji. She had a
right.
girlfriend. She was many boyfriends. She just had so many different.
She's the free spirit.
She was the free. It was
Yeah.
like what can we do with her? And it was like the roller derby one or like there was just such fun. They were always kind of like, oh, okay. It was.
but was it jarring to be like, wait, I was with a woman? Like, because
Yeah.
not that changes, but I just mean you didn't know, like, to be able to throw anything at your character is a little like, oh, I didn't realize she was married
know.
or,
Well,
bisexual.
I forgot, like in the pilot, I forgot that Angela was so like flirty with Booth. Like I didn't remember. She was like, I'd hit like,
Yeah.
or
I'd hit that.
I'd tap that, whatever.
Tap that.
She was so. I had forgotten that. She was like hitting on everything and anyone, and yeah. So I would say, that's a lot of answers. Just it was a very joyful. Yeah.
Well, I want to know when you first got the script, you were talking about how you liked the character and she's so confident. Do you feel like that confidence rubbed off on you after playing the character?
I'll tell you that I definitely miss having to do that every day.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
It's a great exercise to
Definitely.
externally have to show your
Yes.
confidence.
Really?
Because
Yes.
it can work.
I definitely.
Yeah.
It is not my general state of being. I don't think. Like I don't.
I
She's
do not think of you.
really.
Oh my God.
You think of me like
I think
that?
Of you as, totally.
Oh,
I
that's
do.
really
And I don't know if
nice.
that's just like our internal, dialogue and neuroses and all those things that I
Right,
don't know
right.
about. Because I see you
I
as
don't.
so. Oh,
Yeah.
you're
think
like,
she knows.
I see you as.
No, I see all of it. But I
self-assured.
see.
It's so funny. I don't see you that way.
I just think I'm more. I'm kind of an introvert. I don't like. It's naturally I go this way. I think, whereas she was so
Right.
like so much that it was. I didn't notice it when we were filming it, but since filming it, I have. Because I kind of have to practice. It's like that, like faking it. So you have to practice it. Fake it till you make it.
It's nice
It
to have
definitely.
to play a character. I mean, Brennan
Yes.
is similar too, in that she's confident.
Yes.
And I agree. I never thought of it that way, but I
Yeah.
do.
You're just
I
doing
did
it for
like
so many
that.
hours
Yeah.
a day.
Yeah.
So even
it
if
gets
it's
like those
yeah,
muscles work.
yeah. So I do miss that. Yeah.
That's so
That's
interesting.
nice that you think of me that way, Carla.
I
Thank
do.
you.
I totally don't think of it. I think of you so. Yeah, like even
That's nice.
as like I'd say outside of work and obviously at work, like who you are, like as a person, but also as an actress, very like you knew what you wanted, what you didn't want, like, and I think of you as a person that way too, as very. I mean, I can tell definitely like I think we're alike in that like introvert way of like I definitely don't see you. You're not like a bulldozer. You're not like I'll go up and ask for the like whatever. But I do think of you as someone who really knows like what she wants, and I don't know. Yeah,
Maybe it can
I
we
don't
grew
think of
up on
either
that show.
one of you as introverts. I mean,
Really?
you definitely not.
that's so funny.
I know.
But I know that you think. I mean,
I
not
do-
you
I
think you
see
are, but
both
you.
with Carla.
But I can see that
Mark
you want to
says
go
that
out. But
too.
you are such an like outwardly facing extrovert.
Yes.
You somewhat too, but not as much. Like you are such an extrovert. Yeah. Like you are a masking extrovert.
I'm masking my being an introvert, right?
I guess that's what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm an extroverted introvert.
When you started Bones, like, were you wanting it to last for a really long time, or were you thinking like this will be nice for like a year, or maybe 2 tops or something?
I don't think your concept of time at that point, we were in our mid-20s.
Yeah.
You think you have so much of it. It's such a different reality than that it is now, I feel like I definitely loved working on it. And I loved, obviously, you and the character. And, it was such a great job that I certainly didn't want it to go away. I remember like 7, 8, it was like, oh, wow, this is like, this is going to keep going. Like, then it's like, oh, okay, wow, this is, but I think, I remember thinking like, oh, I hope I don't like atrophy and my muscles don't become, because you're doing it for so long. And we did not have time to do anything else. We had 8 weeks off.
It was rare to get a job.
8 weeks off.
It was really 8 weeks, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it was 8 weeks.
Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was hard. You kind of, you're acting all the time, but you're acting one character on the same show.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes you're kind of doing similar things a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard. You're like, can I play another character after Bones? To me, I don't know. I was a little depressed too after it ended, even though I wasn't wanting it to keep going, but I felt like it was such a big transition and it made me feel sad. I missed going to work, but I didn't want to just get another job.
Yeah. I'm
curious if you felt that way. And then like in your subsequent jobs, I felt sometimes like, oh, I was so spoiled on like not every show is gonna be like you meet all your friends and you have the best time of your life and you love working with everybody.
I was like recurring on some stuff, so that's also a very different
you
vibe.
Went to some other jobs not that long after. Yes,
but I was not a series regular, which there's a
different and From Mankind.
They were just I would come in for a couple and then then you're on someone else's show, which is great because it's also you're on someone else's show, and that's really nice.
There's not as much pressure.
There's not as much pressure, but the energy of all these different places. It's I remember being like, oh wow, okay, the rules are very clear very quickly. Like how different it is, and
I think I'm going to jump in with another fan question.
Great,
because I would like to know this as well. Caitlin Cos Murphy asks, what did you draw from to develop the beautiful friendship between Angela and Brennan? I think I know the answer, but I think what I want to do is get into that friendship a little, your guys' relationship and friendship.
Do you remember when we were like, did they ever have a fight? Do you remember?
I don't remember that.
I know. I feel like you blocked it out.
I'm like, I don't. Wait, when did we went to them and asked them or something?
I just remember being like, could they ever have a
Yeah.
fight? But I feel like we did try to make it like a full, not always. Well, what I liked about, I don't know if I can say this now, but what I liked about what they did sometimes was that they would switch places for each other. Like Angela would become, Brennan would essentially tell Angela, like, you need to reveal more of yourself. You have to, be more vulnerable. And Angela would do the opposite part. Like we would kind of trade places, which I think, that's like a definite testament to heart, being able to do that. But what did we draw from? I mean, we liked each other, so that really helped. What do you think?
And
I don't know.
think it was very natural and easy, and we became friends while working together.
Yeah.
And I think I don't remember like specifically drawing. I'm not somebody who, I personally am not somebody who like draws from something in my life. I like to build a character in my mind and that the relationships for the character. And so I feel like it was just also very natural and easy to do.
Yeah, there was definitely like a natural chemistry there that I think was just regard. I think like a regard for each other. like I had a lot of I did have a lot of respect for you as an actor, obviously, and as a person, which I think you feel. I do think you
Definitely.
feel it. Like I think there's something that's very
Yeah, it was a
So, yeah.
genuine. Like, I mean, that's why it looks. My read on it as a viewer was that it looks so authentic and genuine because you guys really do care for each other, and so when you're, which is such a gift when you are with an actor that you care about, and then you have a scene where you care about each other.
Yeah.
because they're really touching, your guys' scenes. I mean, a lot of times that's the often that's the heart of an episode is you two coming together because something has been really hard for her, or in 117 like she comes to you. I mean, it's really touching and so authentic between the two of you. Do you guys have like a favorite anything that was like a favorite thing you guys shot together?
my God, we did so many.
I don't know. I was just gonna say that we called those scenes the heart to heart scenes.
The heart to heart. Well, I will say, I did have a funny memory when they in the first season when we did the nightclub episode, and they wanted Angela and Brennan to be dancing,
Oh,
like in the
I
scene.
wrote notes about that. Okay, yes.
And
Are you going,
was it Barry that had the choreograurs like
It
come
must have
to
been
our
Barry
trailers?
To bring, no,
What?
you were the only one that got the choreographer.
What?
Michaela. I remember, like, didn't he have like a boombox?
He
or
had a
something?
literal boombox. A man came to my
Michaela
trailer.
got and by the way, the moves were just like just to do like normal moves.
There must have been a note like,
just like
get
a
her.
move.
It was just like dance.
She got a choreographer for her, but they determined that Brennan wasn't going to be a natural dancer, so they didn't want Brennan to have.
Okay.
It wasn't that they thought I would be dancing really well and you needed help. It was that they just thought that Angela had to be like
Have the moves.
Yes.
And there was some doubt that you had them.
And there was doubt. There was some
Yeah.
doubt.
Okay.
There was some doubt there.
I do remember answering the door to this like this very enthusiastic guy with this literal.
And then you danced with him like in your train. Like
we did a little. I remember. Yes, like I remember he was like, "Make it easy, make it natural," which you can't do it when someone's asking you to do it. It's just
Make it natural.
No, it's so uncomfortable.
Make it easy. Make it easy.
There was a lot of attention on that episode. Specifically,
in the first season, there was a lot of attention on
in
a lot
general,
of-
but
yeah.
like they came and looked at my outfits. Like the studio or network executives came and looked at my outfits for going out to the club, which turned out to be just a normal, like a tank top.
Yeah.
I think
Like
you're both
that
wearing tank
was
tops.
what they came to look at to
Yeah.
make sure. And I don't know if that was because that came after the episode where I wore that vintage dress and they all like hated I love that vintage dress I wore, but they apparently did not care for it. But so anyway, they had a lot of attention on this like outfit.
Yeah.
And I remember so many. I did a costume fitting with executives checking what my outfit would be, and then it was just like she'll wear a tank top and jeans, and then Brendan calls it a costume, and you're like, but she's wearing something very similar to what she wears.
Yeah. And then there were like the fantasy episode. Anyway, we
The
had
fantasy episodes were so
fantasy
fun.
episodes.
I
Christmas
was
episode.
thinking about the episode where we see the origin story. Was that the
Oh my
200th
God.
episode maybe or
Yes,
something?
right.
And we see their first case together. Then we find Angela's doing sketches in a park, I think.
I was a caricature artist.
Caricature artist.
at a park.
and they found you. And they were
And they
like,
recruited
this woman,
me.
this
They were
woman should work in a lab and do we can discover who the victim
I
is.
think
She
there's
needs
some
no
other
credit.
connection.
She's no degrees.
No.
degrees. Just
You were
get her
that
off that
talented.
street.
No
They were like, that
specific talent.
caricature is incredible. We must have her on the team.
No one had to like vet me. I was in.
That's amazing.
I was in.
I love it.
I forgot about the origin story. That's
Yeah.
right. We had, I remember I liked that you got to see, you got to tell me your feelings about me. You got to tell Angela your feelings about Boo. Like it was so much about showing the audience your real feelings, which I
That's
think
true,
was a
yeah.
real, released a lot of pressure probably for the audience too, who was not getting to see that. So I do feel like that was always fun,
Yeah.
Speaking of fathers, someone asked a question about your father on the show. Do you think I was asking about your real father?
Real callback. And no,
Okay, you were like-
no.
Let's see. Or do they not? Did we just ask that question?
How did you feel when you found out who your dad was on the show? And it's from Kayla_top.
Yes.
I think there was. I think they had talked about a few different musicians. They had talked about
really?
yeah, I remember they were like
I didn't know
thinking
that.
they wanted somebody that had like, that was obviously very famous and well known. And I remember Hart talking about like, other, like what kind of vibe they wanted. I mean, my dad totally used to listen to that, like in the car. He used to listen to
liked
ZZ
ZZ
Top
Top.
in the car.
Really?
I mean, not just ZZ Top, but he'd always listen to like, that was definitely in the like drive to school. Yeah. So he was really excited about it. I remember. But
That's
I remember
cute.
meeting
That's really
Billy
funny.
Gibbons and being like, "You're so kind."
He's
He
the
was like
sweetest
the
guy.
sweetest man.
Yeah.
Just so
He's
like
really
mild mannered and very
low key, like he's not
yeah.
overly fancy, very kind of generous.
Yeah,
as
and has a
person.
story about everyone. Like Prince, I mean, he's met everyone. He's worked with so many people,
Right.
and it's crazy. But yeah, I remember thinking when he came, that episode where they come and like that for the Christmas episode where you
Yeah.
first, and remember everyone's talking about Angela, like I can't tell you who my dad is and that whole thing. I mean, I loved having him. He was so fun. He was such a and he's like continued to be so sweet. He'll like email over,
you stay in
like,
touch?
yeah. He,
that?
he sends pictures of the tour. Like he's such my dad has seen him in concert. He like shouted out my dad at a concert in
Shut
Philly.
up.
Yeah. He's really, really, he's really sweet. He's a really sweet man. Yeah, he's helped.
is
like,
so sweet.
Yeah, he's lovely. Yeah.
We should all go to ZZ Top
nice.
concert together.
Thanks, Kayla, for that question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Kayla.
Michaela
Michaela.
Kayla Top.
I wonder if Kayla's full name
I
is
feel like we're
Michaela.
forgetting like some things. Are we forgetting?
Yeah, I know. I'm like,
anything?
is there stuff that you're like, ooh, we got to talk about that.
Well,
No. I
that's
mean-
our job.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying.
No,
I don't
no,
want
no.
you to feel the burden of having to
Right,
know
right.
what we're
But if
supposed to
there's
talk
something
about.
that she's like,
But-
oh, I thought we
but
would
yes.
get into that thing, or I've got to
Yes.
tell that story,
Right, I didn't mean-
or
yeah.
no. Yeah, yeah.
No. I mean, I've really enjoyed listening. Like I really did like Barry's episode. I learned a lot from listening to it. Like the lit tables. Like I didn't even know. It never occurred to me. Like it's so
Yeah.
and in watching the show, I'm like, it was so visual. That he really made that it visual.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And it's
shout out
been
to Barry
cool about-
J.
Cool about the podcast is like, I think that you never know. I mean, as actors, obviously you're privy to some stuff, but a lot of times you're sort of showing up and doing your
Yes.
job, and there's been
Yes.
all this thought and prep and going into everything. And then that's what's been interesting about the podcast is like how much you're hearing about like why that was
Who's
that
available,
thing,
the
or
budget.
really even
Yeah.
how the show came about. Like
Yeah.
hearing Barry Josephson talk about like seeing the documentary on Kathy Reichs and being
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what it is. And like I was like, oh my God, I wish you could do that on every job you ever. Where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like why did that? Why that? Or why was the table lit? Or why did it look like that? I mean, I feel like on the one hand I'm like, oh, I think we like covered everything, and then on the other hand I feel like we covered nothing. like scratch the surface
It's
of
true.
Yeah.
a week-long interview that I need to do.
I know.
And weirdly, this is also how I feel when I have lunch with you.
I
Like I'm always
know.
like, I'm so happy to see her, and then I like get in the car and I'm like, I don't think I talked about
But we didn't
anything
ask about
that-
this. I didn't ask
anything that I
about
meant to ask
this.
her
I know.
about. But
It's so great.
that just means you'll just keep coming back.
I know. I'll come back.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Okay.
Please.
Please, I'll
We
come
love
back.
having
Okay.
you.
I would
Thank you
love-
so
I mean, there's
much
so many
for
more things to
spending
talk
the
about.
time with
I know.
us.
It was very
Thank
fun.
you
I
so
feel like I
much.
feel that way too. We have so much to cover, but
So much.
thanks, ladies.
But this was so nice. This is a nice scratch of the surface of Angela Montenegro.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Boneheads, and maybe watching.
I was gonna say, and thanks for watching.
Maybe watching. Thanks.
I didn't want to make eye contact at the beginning.
Yes.
Thanks, you guys. It was really fun. It was nice to hear fan questions too. It was really, really nice to hear from people and what they loved about the show.
We love the fan questions. And we love the fans.
And we love Michaela Conlin.
And we love
Love you
Michaela
guys.
Conlin.
Thank you for having me. It's been very fun.
Yeah.
So thank
Thanks,
you.
Michaela.
Thanks, guys.
We love you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you.
And thanks for listening,
Thanks for
listeners.
listening.